Hello YouTube, my name is Alexander and I'm here to tell you about the history of antibiotics. The history of antibiotics is a long one. Although we often only look at the last 100 years, there is a story before the discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming in 1929. I will tell you the whole story from the beginning. The story begins in times when a simple paper cut could lead to a lethal blood poisoning. The first recordings date back 5,000 years ago, when the Chinese used moldy soybeans to treat patients with Staphylococcus aureus. This pathogen causes boil and pus bulges. Although they did not know how it worked, they were the first to use a substance produced by mold. The substance would be known as penicillin thousands of years later. But not only the Chinese realized the effect of mold. South American natives wore moldy sandals against foot infections, and in Europe the Egypts started eating moldy bread against fever and cut injuries. The treatment with moldy bread would find its use in Central Europe during the Middle Ages as well. All this was still quite vague, and although due to observations the people knew about the effect of certain natural substances, no one could tell why it worked. This would be beginning to change when Joseph Lister, a British physician, started experimenting on penicillin. He realized that bacteria would not grow in urine samples contaminated with mold. He would also treat a nurse's abscess with Penicillium glaucum. Emmerich and Löw, two German physicians, followed up 1887 by producing the first antibiotic substance called pyocyanase. Pyocyanase was run from a germ called Pseudomonas aeruginosa. They extracted the substance from bandages of infected wounds. Due to its toxicity, this antibiotic is no longer in use today. In the year 1889, the French mycolog Vuillemin created the concept of antibiosis. 35 years later, Gracia and Bath started screening soil samples on its antibiotic effect. Antibiotics can be found in many locations. Chlorotetracyclines, for example, can be found in cemetery earth, and streptomycin was found in soil samples of the ants. Finally, we arrive in the year 1929, when the Londoner physician Alexander Fleming discovers the penicillin by accident. The fungus Penicillinum notatum grew in one of his samples. He then realized that the germs could not grow around the fungus and named the filtrate of his sample penicillin. As you can see, he was not the first to realize, but he was the one who published the concept of his discovery. In 1938, Howard V. Florey and Ernest B. Chain succeeded in partial purifying of penicillin. This allowed experiments with therapeutic quality with mice and humans. In the year 1941, the first patient gets treated with the produced penicillin. He is a 43-year-old Londoner police officer who suffered from blood poisoning due to a shaving cut. 5 days later, his fever is gone, but all the penicillin is used. The treatment has to be stopped, and he sadly dies 1 month later from his blood poisoning. During war times, the need for penicillin was high. Since the kidney extracted about 80% of the penicillin, the urine was often collected and reused, after purifying, of course. In 1945, Alexander Fleming, H. V. Florey and A. B. Chain received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discovery and research of penicillin. During the years 1946 to 1948, a tragedy occurred. In the syphilis experiments of Guatemala, the United States founded a program in which prostitutes, prisoners of war, soldiers, and mentally ill people were infected with syphilis. The goal of those experiments was to investigate the effect of penicillin. Of the around 1,300 people infected on purpose, at least 83 persons died. On October 1st, 2010, President Barack Obama apologized to the victims. The research of antibiotics go on. We now have many different kinds of antibiotic drugs. Sadly, this magical bullet against many infections might be lost soon due to misusage. But more about this another time.